What's so funny?
Should we go with that? You know what? For some of us, it's been a while. And it shows. Because that's not the real intro, Jacob. For any of you tuning in, which there's no one here right now, so that's great. But that was not the right intro, right? That's the old intro, is it not, Jacob?
That's correct. It's been a while. We've been, especially for myself, so no worries there.
No worries at all. I'm happy you're here. But you played the intro. I put my head down thinking, okay, I got a minute here. I'm going to look at my phone really quick. And then all of a sudden I look up and the song's over and I'm like, hello, welcome everybody. So welcome into the first round.
There's no redoing that. That's live right there.
That is live, right? Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home for second round advice. I'm Gabe Miramontes. I'm joined today by Jacob Bartley. Jacob, welcome back, man. So good to have you. And before I know what you're up to, be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us anywhere you listen to your podcast, including here. If you're looking at our faces on YouTube, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, or anywhere else, Google, Spotify, anywhere else you get your podcast. With that being said, Jacob, my friend, hello, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, doing all right. I'm glad to be talking fantasy football again. Fantasy football is something I live for. So it's always on my mind and I'm always thinking about it and I'm always listening to other podcasts about it. So it's finally time for me to start talking about it again. So I'm excited.
And from my perspective, I'm just going to say this out loud. I just can't do any more podcasts with Justin. I'm just over it. So I'm so happy you're here and Justin's gone. Justin, if you happen to listen, I'm just kidding, by the way. We're not going to waste too much time today. We're going to get right into it. Jacob and I have compiled our individual QB rankings, and we have put them together to give us consensus rankings. By now, if you're watching this, you kind of know how it goes. Other people do it. But the great thing about us is everyone's different. So we're going to give you our opinions on some of the guys that we like heading into this season. And before we get started, any news, any notes? I don't think so. Let's keep it QB specific. I got one, Josh Rosen, signed by the Cleveland Browns. I mean, likely not to be, he probably won't even make the roster. He's probably just going in for a roster spot right now. But, wouldn't that be some 2020 stuff right there? Josh Rosen beats out Jacoby Brissett. Deshaun Watson's gone, and then you just have like a top 15 guy in Josh Rosen with Amari Cooper, David Bell, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. What a filthy team right there. But
you'd be happy you picked him up in our Superflex league. So
did I pick him up?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to drop a lot of people here soon because our roster's cut down, and I think I have him. And
no. I'm talking in your dynasty league.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, because I have absolutely no quarterbacks. So yeah, I needed him desperately.
What do you mean you got Wentz?
I don't want to talk about my team right now. We should not talk about that team.
So I do want to mention one thing off the top, really quick. I just want to say, Matthew Berry of ESPN, he finally left ESPN. And look, I don't want to hear it. Everybody knows. And if you don't know, then you have no idea what you're talking about. Matthew Berry is the GOAT of fantasy football analysis. He is a pioneer that brought this industry to what it is today. There would be no name your favorite podcast, fantasy podcast. There would be none of that if it wasn't for Matthew Berry. So I just want to say congratulations to him for whatever he's moving on to do. I'm guessing he's going to be a little bit more free and independent and be able to use that sailor's mouth of his because ESPN's owned by Disney, so it's very restrictive. But I just wanted to say he's not retiring, but he retired from ESPN, which is kind of a big deal. So congratulations to the GOAT for whatever he's going to be doing after this.
I'm excited. You think it's fantasy related?
100%.
But with who? I mean, who leaves Disney?
I think he's either gonna start his own thing, completely 100% his own thing, kind of like Kyle Yates did. He left Fantasy Pros and made his own fantasy channel or whatever, fantasy company.
Fair enough.
Or somebody like Barstool Sports or something came around and offered him a crap load of money to do his own show there. But the thing is, I think wherever he goes, he's going to be more free because, like, if you listen to the ESPN podcast, he has to stop himself from cussing all the time and all that kind of stuff. So I think he's just going to be more free wherever he goes.
Yeah, he certainly does have a problem. Now that you say that, I really liked who was his co-host on ESPN?
Field Yates.
The other guy, Stephania Ball, and who?
Field Yates.
Field Yates.
Yeah.
You said he too already? He didn't leave.
No. So there's Kyle.
No, you're
Yates
talking about Kyle
from Fantasy Pros and Field Yates from ESPN. Yeah.
And they're not related.
They're not.
Makes sense.
Which is funny. They did a podcast together, but they're not even related. Yeah.
I take that news as there's a door for us to become the next big podcast, Jacob.
Yes, there we go.
ESPN's going down.
One day, we will get Matthew Berry on our show. That's our goal. One day.
Sure,
Look, it doesn't have to be next year. I'm talking like one day before the world ends. All right.
Yeah, okay. All right, sounds good. I appreciate it. Hey, I've seen him go on to some smaller podcasts in the past.
Yeah, so I know. That's what I'm saying.
The range of possibilities.
Once we get a little bigger, we'll hit him in the DMs, and he'll do it. He'll do it.
Dude, we're big now, man. We've made it. Yeah. 2 people in the chat. Let's get started. We're doing our 11 through 20, but we are moving from the top down, or I guess from the bottom to the top. So we're starting with quarterback 20, and Jacob, because this is technically your guy that has finagled his way into our top 20, I will let you do the honors of introducing him. Who is our 20th ranked QB going into the 2022 season?
Oh, you mean my guy, like he's ranked on my list and he's not ranked on
mine.
Okay, so our number again, this is a consensus. So we each made our list and we combined them. So through that, Trevor Lawrence ended up at number 20 because I have him ranked number 20. So he found his
and I
way.
have him ranked just a bit outside. So that's
so you had to use those ranks outside of the 20 to determine those last couple spots, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Look, every single podcast you listen to, they say the same thing. He was with Urban Meyer last year. He held him back. It was a circus. That's all true. But look, there's a reason why he is one of the greatest prospects of all time. And if last year is an indication of what his career is going to be, then it's arguably going to be the biggest bust of all time. Because we were talking about him like he's LeBron James coming up, entering the NFL, like that type of prospect. And he was hands down the number 1 pick, talked about the most as a prospect since Andrew Luck. And to me, that talent is not just going to go down the toilet. I think that he's going to have a new state of mind coming in with his new coach, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles coach, the one that was there when they won the Super Bowl. I can't pull his name off the top of my head. Doug Peterson, yes. So I just think he's gonna have a new culture, new play callers. He has a new wide receiver core, which I don't think any of those guys individually are going to make a huge difference, but the collection of his wide receiver core, I think, is going to be a lot better than last year. And maybe one of the most important things, in my opinion, both for him mentally and on the field, Travis Etienne is back. And if anything, that's going to make Trevor Lawrence feel more at home and more just comfortable, knowing he has that safety blanket there. So I just think there's a lot of positivity going on, and that's why I have him. I mean, I have him ranked 20, which is not even that high, but I think
viable in super flex.
I think there's some optimism there for Trevor Lawrence.
That's fair. For those reasons and more, that's kind of why I disagree, and I have him outside of my top 20. We're going to be talking about a few second-year QBs here on this list, especially 11 through 20 as we start to reveal them. But Trevor Lawrence specifically, I just think with a new coach, sure, Doug Peterson comes in. I think that's a new offense that he has to learn. I think that takes time. Last year, that offensive line was putrid. It was bottom 5 in the league. And unlike some of these other guys that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on, they didn't really do anything to address it too much. They addressed the defensive side of the ball in the draft. They're kind of just leaving it as it is. And then also, he was 30th in the league in completion percentage last year, which is also kind of ironic because the two guys that were behind him are also higher on our list. So it's going to be kind of interesting what we have to say about those guys as they start to approach us. But as far as Trevor Lawrence is concerned, I don't think that wide receiving core is going to do it. I think they had to overpay to get Christian Kirk there, like you had mentioned, maybe as a more established unit together with that cohesiveness, they can get something done. But individually, I don't even know how those guys are going to find separation. I mean, Christian Kirk is good. I don't know if he's great, but clearly he's etched his way into the top 20. And that's good enough for us because that's viable in Superflex leagues. As of right now, as it currently stands, according to NFC, his ADP is the 18th quarterback off the board. That's right around the middle of the 12th round. So he is there if you want him. And you know, when you're drafting quarterbacks that late, they're technically flyers. So you're looking for upside anyways. And if there's anybody that can take upside, it's a second-year QB, and it's the number one prospect going into last year, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm relying on him in my dynasty league as my second quarterback. So I need him to do something. And I traded Lamar away in that league, so I need him to do something.
Oh my god. Yeah, we just can't talk about that league anymore.
Sometimes this one is
is it yours?
Dynasty, yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
I love my team in your league. Beautiful. Beautiful.
All right, man. Well, that was Trevor Lawrence at number 20. Let's go ahead and move on now to our 19th consensus ranked QB. And I will do the honors of addressing this one because he's inside of my top 20. He's outside of Jacob's, and that is Jameis Winston, quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. I have him currently as quarterback 17. Jacob has him slightly outside the top 20. Consensus, he falls to us at 19. His current ADP is the 21st quarterback off the board. That is in the 15th round. So basically a dart throw. And that's what we're kind of talking about here, especially with these first few guys. They're guys with high upside that we think you don't really have to waste a pick on, but you can get tremendous upside with. And for me, that's Jameis Winston. Last year, before he went down with the ACL injury, he was on a career pace for 36 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Now, if we know anything about Jameis Winston, he throws interceptions. But I went in, I looked, I wanted to just kind of see what was going on. Again, those were both career highs for him if he was on to stay on that trajectory.
But how many yards was he?
Now that's the thing. He was also on pace for his lower. Yeah, he was also on pace for his lowest yard amount. So there are, I like it. You got to poke the holes where you see them. But in healthy seasons that QB Jameis Winston has played, he's never finished outside the top 20. In 2015, as a rookie, he was the number 13 quarterback. 2016, he was 16th. 2017, he was quarterback 22, but he only played 13 games, so he missed a few due to injury. Or I think they were starting to bench him at that point. In 2018, he also finished as the quarterback 22, but again, he only played in 10 games. And in 2019, that was his last season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He threw a career high 30 interceptions and still finished as the quarterback 3 for fantasy. He gets Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, the rookie, with him now to improve that wide receiving core, not to mention Jarvis Landry. I think there are a lot of options there. And if he builds upon what he was able to do last year, he comes back looking good. He's all systems go for training camp, which means he's on track for week 1. I think the sky's the limit, and he's an absolute steal in the 15th round. Jameis Winston is my guy at the 19th on our rankings. Jacob?
Yeah, so Jameis Winston is interesting because I don't think necessarily that high efficiency, low volume that he was doing last year is going to be the case. Like, I think they might let him rip it a little bit more than last year. But the thing for me is his range of outcomes is very wide for me. He could either be a bottom, a bottom 25 quarterback for fantasy, or he could literally be a top 5 quarterback for fantasy. Like where he could end up it varies for me widely. So I just think I'm a little worried about it. I do not believe Michael Thomas is going to play. I will not believe it until I see it. And I would talk to you about this before. I do not think like there's something weird going on there. I do not believe Michael Thomas is going to step foot on the field. Like, I just don't. And when it happens, cool. But so for me, I imagine this offense without Michael Thomas. And Jameis Winston, he could still be successful even without Michael Thomas on the field. And hey, if Michael Thomas doesn't play, wheels up for Chris Olave, right? Like, where's he going to be drafted in redraft? Probably pretty damn high. And that's a steal for everybody in Dynasty and redraft if they've already drafted. But there's a lot of factors that are unknown for me. So Jameis Winston scares me a little bit.
That's fair. And I'm actually glad you brought up Michael Thomas not playing, because I just have some news here. He's on the PUP to start training camp. So that's at least 6 weeks that he's not going to be with the team during training camp. Doesn't mean he's out for the start of the regular season, but certainly hampers things. However, I think he was able to do a lot with a little last year. I mean, look at that receiving core last year. He didn't have Jarvis Landry. He didn't have Michael Thomas. And he's not going to have – he didn't have Chris
Olave.
What?
Jarvis Landry slipped my mind a little bit. That could be good too. Like, imagine if Michael Thomas doesn't play, Jarvis Landry is going to be a value in fantasy next year. So,
I mean, the range of outcomes for Jameis is wide, but I think here he demonstrates consistency. That's what I look for in quarterbacks that are veterans. I want to know if they've been able to string it together over the last couple of years, and he's been able to do that when he's played games. And now we have a little bit of a sample size. He's done it when he's been slinging the ball, and he's done it when he's throwing 15, 18 passes a game. So he's kind of proven that he could do it both ways. So I'm eager to take the chance on him. And again, with 21st QB off the board, he's basically a waiver wire guy at this point. So you're just taking him off the waiver wires after your draft for high upside. And I think you're going to be able to get some QB1 finishes out of Jameis Winston this year, which is why he falls to QB 19. Let's move on to the old veteran. Jacob, do you want to do the honors of unveiling this guy? Anybody who is going to listen to this, they're already thinking, old veteran. Do I give another hint and say new team?
Yeah, because they might be thinking we have Tom Brady ranked at number 18, but we don't. We have Matt Ryan of the Indianapolis Colts ranked at number 18. And let me see where I have him on. So I have him 19 on my list. So pretty close to our consensus. Not much disparity there. What were we going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I have him at 20. You have him at 19. But because some of those guys who are ranked before or a little bit after him, like Jameis and Trevor, who also find themselves not on our individual rankings, but they found themselves on our consensus rankings.
Exactly.
That's why a guy like Matt Ryan gets pushed up.
Well, yeah, because he's on both of our lists, right? And look, this could be too low for him, to be honest. Like, I think there's a possibility that he finishes higher. But if you look at the way the team is set up, they have very good offensive line. The offense runs through Jonathan Taylor. It's not like he has a Bengals or Rams wide receiver core where it's like there's 2 or 3 or 4 guys, or like a Broncos wide receiver core. Yeah. He really has one guy, Michael Pittman Jr., and the rest of them are huge question marks, right? Like a rookie Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, which every year people are like, Paris Campbell's going to do something every year. He never does anything. He always gets injured. So, like, I'm not relying on Paris Campbell being available until I see it. So it's going to be interesting. So I just think he's going to have low volume, and he's going to be either handing it off or passing it to Jonathan Taylor a lot. And he doesn't really have that many weapons. So, look, I'm talking about this negatively in a way because the reason why I have him so low, when I think if he was on a better offense with a team where they're going to pass more, I would have him a lot higher. But not a knock on Matt Ryan. I just think the way his situation's set up right now is going to have him on the bottom half of this list.
Yeah. Colts are in the middle of the league in terms of passing attempts. He does move to a more improved team right? Compared to a situation last year where he was playing with the putrid Atlanta defense, kind of lackluster offense. He moves to an overall better team. I mean, one of the best offensive lines in the league. That's why Jonathan Taylor has had so much success. And arguably, that's probably why Matt Ryan's going to have success as well, considering he's an upgrade over Carson Wentz from last year. Speaking of last year, he finished as the 20th ranked QB. Now, is that a sign of age? Is that a sign of that lackluster offense that he was playing with? That's to be seen, right? Because he's incrementally moving to probably a Super Bowl contender. That's what everybody views this move as. But is it good for fantasy purposes? Well, he's one of the only guys on our top 20 list that lacks the rushing upside. He's getting up there in age. He's not Tom Brady, drinking his vegan milkshakes and I don't even know what that guy does. So it's just a matter of how much he has left in the tank. I think he's a really good game manager at this point in his career. And I think that's what's going to help him in terms of the real NFL season. But for fantasy, I think that's what helps him squeak in to our number 18 quarterback. You can currently find him as the 20th QB off the board in the 14th round. So again, these are all guys that you're spending really late picks on, unless you have a deep, deep sleeper that you absolutely love. These are guys that you can find virtually at the end of your drafts. So high upside plays. In terms of Matt Ryan, though, he's probably that guy that gets you a stable floor. He may not blow the ceiling off, but he's one of the few guys in our top 20 that are going to provide you consistency throughout the year.
Yeah, and, not most people don't play Superflex, but I think, when we're talking about these 11 through 20 guys, a lot of these are like if you play in a Superflex league, this episode of our show is going to be something that you want to listen to, right? Because we're not talking about guys who are going to be starting in one quarterback, 10-team, 12-team leagues. We're talking about these guys that you might have on your bench or that you'll be using as a Superflex. And I will say, I'm rooting for Matt Ryan. I mean, I feel so bad for the guy. Like he was up in the Super Bowl and he just got destroyed. They got destroyed by the Patriots in that comeback. And like, he's been like, look, Joe Flacco has a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford finally got a Super Bowl. Like, I feel like Matt Ryan deserves one. And I also think just because we have Matt Ryan ranked relatively low does not mean that like Michael Pittman is not going to feast, because I do think he's going to feast because he's going to get a majority of the targets. And it's funny, like, I don't know if you remember, but I've been high on Michael Pittman ever since he came into the league. And now all of a sudden everybody's on his jock. Like, it's just crazy. And I'm hearing people like, and this is insane to me, like people like Michael Pittman's going to be a top 5 wide receiver this year. Michael Pittman's going to be, he's guaranteed top 12. And I'm like, I don't even feel that highly about him, but that's what a lot of fantasy analysts are saying today. Or these days. So it could be interesting. So keep an eye on Michael Pittman. I think Matt Ryan can feed him.
He will certainly find a place on our top wide receiver rankings later on in the next couple of weeks here.
I think he'll make top 20, right? Yeah, maybe.
I think he'll make top 20. We'll have to see. But all good stuff about Matt Ryan. Again, finds himself as our 18th ranked QB. We're going to keep on moving here to our second year quarterback, and that is Zach Wilson of the New York Jets. I have him at 19. Jacob has him at 18, but again, because of those little smidgen movements all over the place, he finds himself as our consensus quarterback 17. Last year, he finished as the 29th ranked quarterback. That is not bueno. No bueno? Yeah, that's no bueno. However, a couple of the knocks that I had on Trevor Lawrence, I believe, are the complete opposite for Zach Wilson. They addressed the offensive line, which was putrid last year. Zach Wilson was running for his life constantly. They have improved weapons who I think are remarkably better than Jacksonville. They draft Garrett Wilson. You have second-year, standout Elijah Moore. You draft the number 1 prospect at running back in the draft class. So they've done things on the offensive side of the ball that lead me to believe that, this is Zach Wilson's make it or prove it year, right? Like they're giving him the tools. This is his second year with Robert Saleh. It's not like Robert Saleh got canned and now they got someone new in there. Nope. He's going to continue to build that chemistry with Robert Saleh. So I really like that. A lot of people are going to come out and say, well, one of the biggest knocks against him last year was that he had the league worst completion percentage. We talked about Trevor Lawrence a bit earlier at that. I believe it was like 50 or something percent. Well, league worst Zach Wilson at 59%. It was not that good at all. I'm not saying a lot of people compare him to Josh Allen, but it's very similar situation. Josh Allen came into a situation that was a complete rebuild in Buffalo, right? His first year as a rookie, 52% completion percentage. Next year, he jumped it up to 58%. Zach Wilson was nowhere near 52%. He was on the run constantly, and he made some beautiful throws. I think they can be compared similarly in comparison to their trajectory as an NFL quarterback and what their teams are doing around them. Josh Allen now in year 5. He's a Super Bowl contending quarterback on a Super Bowl winning contender team. Zach Wilson, I think, the Jets have a track record here of history of not being able to do that. But I think he is in line for a massive second-year leap, and I think he's able to do that. And at virtually the 25th QB off the board, which is the 16th round, he's a waiver wire guy. You're picking him up for upside. And I truly think out of, the guys that we've talked about so far, he's probably one of them that could sneak into the top 15 easily. And right now I have him at 17. So it speaks a little bit to that, which makes him a streamer guy throughout the year, by the way.
Yeah, we obviously feel pretty similarly about him, 17 and 18 on our lists. I want to be optimistic about Zach Wilson and the Jets. I want to shout out my buddy Jeremy. He does a YouTube channel called Jets Chaos, and he's going all in on his stuff. So go check it out, Jets Chaos. He actually got a tattoo of his YouTube channel logo on his arm, and he never has any. Never got.
When are we gonna get our first round fantasy symbol? What's going on there?
Hey, I'm down. I don't have any tattoos, but I'm actually about to start getting some.
Okay, good to know.
For sure. But anyways, yes, Zach Wilson. Look, I can see a world where Zach Wilson balls out, because as far as unproven talent in the NFL, the Jets have the most of it, honestly. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing, because it could not work out. They could disappoint. But also, imagine, and this is probably not going to happen, because why would it? The odds of this are very low. But what if all of those guys hit and reach their potential? Talking about Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, the running backs, Breece Hall, Michael Carter, and even Zach Wilson himself. And I just think the team overall has improved. And look, there's got to be a reason why, kind of like Trevor Lawrence. Look, people weren't scouting Zach Wilson for 10 years, but just saying there's a reason why he went number 2. There's a reason why he was locked in at number 2 that year among the other quarterbacks that were being drafted that year. So he's set up to succeed. And it's a different situation than Tua, because Tua has proven talent around him, right? Zach Wilson, these guys all have to grow together and prove it together. Mm-hmm. So I expect Tua to be good. And I'm if he doesn't, then that's a huge disappointment. Zach Wilson, even if he struggles this year, I'm going to cut him some slack, because these guys are all rookies and second-year players learning together. So I'm optimistic about it, but there's no way I would ever rely on him as my only quarterback in a one quarterback league. But he's very, very interesting as a second or third quarterback on your roster.
I think you couldn't have said it better. He presents one of the highest upsides in terms of overall offense, but at the same time, he could literally bottom out and continue his, poor play like he did from last season. So it's really exciting. Obviously, we believe in him, right? We believe in the positive outcome here. And that's where we find himself as our 17th ranked consensus quarterback. I would totally be fine drafting him as my second QB off the board, taking a flyer on him. Those rookies was upside. And get this, he's not the last second-year rookie we're going to be talking about. There's a few more here, and even some that didn't really play a lot last year. So we're going to get into those guys in just a little bit. But before we do, we have a few other guys, starting with the formerly mentioned, just in that previous conversation, Tua Tagovailoa. He is our
Wow, I didn't
16th.
even know he was coming up next. That's crazy.
Do you not look at the notes, Jacob?
No, I do, but when I mentioned him talking about Zach Wilson, I didn't even know, but what a perfect segue.
What a perfect segue it is. I have him at 18. Jacob has him at 16. Consensus-wise, he finds himself at 16.
Ooh, I have him at 16. That's way too high.
Okay, good to know. Well, because you do have him higher, I will let you start. What do you love about Tua Tagovailoa going into this year?
Nothing, but look, I'm giving my buddies Gio and Joe a hard time because they worship at the altar of Tua Tagovailoa, but I don't know. All right, so look, there's a lot of things working in his favor, right? But I also think if he sucks this year, if he doesn't put it together this year, I think his starting job in Miami's gone. I think, and I think he's going to be relegated to a backup in the NFL. But on the flip side of that, he could absolutely ball out this year, and it's simple. They added talent. They added one of the best wide receivers in the league, in Tyreek Hill. That's simple enough, right? He still has Jalen Waddle, which we all saw what Jalen Waddle did last year. And so it's going to be a very interesting dynamic with those two wide receivers. And I don't think, while there are teams that maybe have two better ones, like maybe Chase and Higgins are better than them combined, or, take your pick on any duo you want. But this duo has got to be up there. And they're both very unique wide receivers. So I think he's going to rely on both of them a lot, and it's going to boost his numbers up. And in fantasy, that's all we care about is the numbers. So there's that. He also has some decent pass catchers past those two. And I think Mike Gesicki could have a pretty good year this year. So I like his team, and look, he has a million running backs, right? There's going to be like 3 injuries. They're still going to have like 15 running backs ready to go. So they don't have to worry about that. But almost more than the Tyreek Hill thing, and this is not my bias kicking in, is their head coach, Mike McDaniel, from offensive coordinator from the San Francisco 49ers. The Kyle Shanahan tree, or I should say the Mike Shanahan tree, is everlasting in the NFL, right? And from what I've heard, that Mike McDaniel has been with Kyle Shanahan since like the Washington days, and Sean McVay was there too. And all these guys were coming up together, and these Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan kind of got their, they got their chance first. But this guy has been waiting to get his opportunity, and some people think that he's the real offensive genius behind Kyle Shanahan's schemes. So that's very interesting. That doesn't mean he's going to translate to a great head coach, because there's more to it than drawing up plays. There's communication skills, handling player personalities, all of that stuff, right? And, doing the press conferences. So we'll see if he can handle that. But I know he can handle the play calling. So I think the combination of adding Tyreek and having him as a head coach is setting up to a really nice year. And look, we have him at 16. All those things I mentioned, I could see Tua being a top 10 quarterback, but I just got to see it. So that's why I have him ranked kind of low.
Yeah, I like the Mike McDaniel, reference there. You always got to talk about new head coaches and what he was able to do in San Francisco, which was so exciting. It leads me to believe that they're going to do some similar things like that in Miami, which is also why they have the running backs they do. They have surrounded Tua Tagovailoa with speed, dude, like no other.
How do you even draft one of those guys?
Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, all guys with just tremendous speed. That offense, I think, is going to have tons of trickery, tons of trick plays. I think they're doing those things to add those players around to relieve a little bit of pressure, which I guess any team is going to do in the NFL, right? They want to help their QB out the best they can. But it's not every day you have 4 guys that can run like sub 4 force or something like that. Like, these guys are going to be burners out there on the field. Look for a lot of underneath screens to get the ball out. quickly for Tua Tagovailoa. And, if yards after a catch mean anything, it's going to mean a lot for Tua Tagovailoa because he's going to be looking at a lot of 5-yard dump offs, and these guys are just going to take it 30 or 40 yards. And, hey, those are good for a QB, right, when you're looking for yards. So for all those reasons and more, that's why we have Tua Tagovailoa. Even though Jacob thinks he's a little too high, even though he finds us on our rankings, it's okay. We can always move him, adjust him when we want to. But he does. That was funny when you said that. He does find himself as our consensus QB 16. Let's move on to another guy.
This one's going to be controversial.
It's going to be controversial. I don't think it's that bad.
Not between us. I think people are going to give us crap for this.
No, I don't think so at all. And let's just say it out there. It is the wily veteran himself up in the King of the North, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback 7 last year. I have him currently ranked as quarterback 14. Jacob has him as quarterback 14. However, he slips just a little bit back to the quarterback 15 on our rankings. He is currently the 12th QB off the board. That's 8th round value. And let me just say this. It's not every day you lose the best wide receiver in the game in Davante Adams and are left with quite possibly the worst wide receiving core you have ever had in your playing career. And that's where Aaron Rodgers finds himself this year. And that's where he kind of finds himself down on this list this year. He had an MVP caliber season last year. Every year things change.
He won the MVP.
He won the MVP, right?
2 in a row, which is crazy to me.
I know.
He has 4 of them.
There might be a little bit of bias here, but also, some things just speak to themselves. There's going to be an adjustment period. It's not the same as Zach Wilson in year 2, right? This is Aaron Rodgers in season, 16 or something like that. So he's proven, he's consistent, he can get the job done, which is why he's here. He's top 15 on our list. But, according to the masses, the 12th QB off the board isn't exactly raving the windows off, right? That still finds him in a QB1 if you're playing in a 12 QB league. But, that's just kind of where he falls over here for us. Jacob, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just like some other situations, I think it's quite simple to, give our reasoning why we have him so low. He lost Davante Adams, and that's only going to hurt. It's not going to help a quarterback as far as putting up statistics for fantasy. Like, it's just not. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was going to say he also is not starting the season with Robert Tonyan, who 2 years ago was his touchdown magnet guy. He's going to be.
I didn't know. Is he out?
Yeah, he's injured, so he's not going to start the season. He probably won't be back until a little bit later on. So, I mean, you're looking at guys like Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb. It's just, Equanimous. Oh, no, he's not even there anymore.
Honestly, that hurt because here's the thing. Like, he didn't just lose Davante Adams, and you can laugh at this if you want. He lost MVS, which is huge. If MVS was still here, then I would feel better about Aaron Rodgers, to be honest, because you have that continuity. He's shown flashes, and I think MVS would have been, he might have been the number 1 target if he would have stayed, to be honest. I mean, him or Alan Lazard. So I think it's interesting because, look, I like a guy like Christian Watson, but we have no idea how that's going to work out. Aaron, I mean, a lot of people say this, and it's true, but I think he can change this. He historically doesn't work with rookie wide receivers that well. Like, even Davante Adams took like a year or 2 to come on.
Nelson as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, there's so much to worry about. And look, their defense is also good. So it's like, it's not like they're going to be behind in every single game, and it's just going to be like a situation where Aaron Rodgers has so much volume. Look, I don't want to doubt the man. Every year I doubt Aaron Rodgers is the year that he goes off and is a top 5 quarterback. But I can't have him much higher than this. I have him 14 on my list, which, hey, once you get up to 14-ish, you're like, okay, he's a borderline. You can swap those 12 through 14 guys, and he can be the last quarterback in a 12-team league,
Most definitely. We also can't ignore the addition of Sammy Watkins, right? It's just, I don't know, man. Amari Rodgers, second-year wide receiver there as well. Played a lot of special teams last year. Christian Watson could be that guy that breaks the stereotype of Aaron Rodgers, rookie wide receivers. But history tells us that that's not the case. It's going to
so
take some
crazy.
time.
Like the Packers and the Chiefs, we have no idea who's going to be the number one wide receiver. And one of those guys on each team is going to hit big, but we have no idea who it is, right? And that's interesting to me because, like, what if it's Romeo Doubs, the other rookie? Like, they've been saying some really good things about him, too. So you never know.
It's true. It's true. Or we could have a situation which is very unlikely, like the New England Patriots, where it's you just never know who's going to hit any given week,
gross.
and everything's so spread out and sporadic.
Well, even with that, like Hunter Henry was catching a bunch of touchdowns. So, like, if there's a guy like that, it could have been
Robert Tonyan, but he's not even there to start the season, right? So there's a lot of question marks surrounding Aaron Rodgers, which is why he slips back. And according to the public, we don't have him that far back. I mean, we have him 3 spots ahead of his average right now as the 12th QB off the board, which is the 8th round. So people believe in him. Some people don't believe in him. We'll let you choose after hearing our thoughts. Leave your comments down below in the comment section. Let's move on to a more interesting guy. I don't know if he's more interesting, but this is a guy that just like, if you ever think about a quarterback in the NFL that is just kind of there year after year after year, and he's like serviceable, but yet people are down on him, then he's always kind of good, and then people are high on him, and he's kind of like just there. It's Kirk Cousins, quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. In 2021, he finished as the quarterback 11. Going into 2022, I have him as the quarterback 14. Jacob has him as the quarterback 15. Consensus, he finds himself as our quarterback 15. ADP currently is the 15th QB off the board. That's the 10th round. So, I mean, you're spending a little bit of value on him, right? That's kind of in our first 100 picks. So people clearly do like him here. Arguably, of all of our QBs, he has some of the best weapons in, dynasty standout, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen there bolstering that wide receiver core, even if he's getting up there in age. And then he's got Dalvin Cook, a top 5
and even KJ Osborne is pretty good.
And wasn't he a rookie last year? I think he was a second year last year. But even KJ Osborne there, who showed promise last year, especially in the slot, he's just got a really good core. They have a new offensive coordinator. Which a lot of people are saying, let Russ cook. I forget what they're saying about Kirk Cousins. I think.
They have a new head coach too.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they have a new. That's what I meant to say. Sorry, new head coach. But overall, kind of what I was saying in the beginning, he's just a model of consistency. He's had 4 years with Minnesota, and 3 out of those 4 years, he's finished at QB 11. So it's like he's there,
Mr. Reliable.
He's always kind of disrespected. But yet every year he finds himself on the cusp of that QB1 starter range. And I think appropriately so. That's why we kind of have last year. He finished as a QB11, right? So 2018 was the 1 year that he didn't. He finished just outside, I think. But, I mean, in terms of just like comfortability of where you want him, this is a guy who just nothing's really changing. The offensive coordinator is supposedly going to throw the ball a lot more. Where last year at times we saw Dalvin Cook and Madison just get the boatload of that work. And it just seemed really one-sided. It was like so off-kilter, that offense last year. Hopefully they can bring some stability to it. And for those reasons, I think we're just going to keep him where we have it as the 14th QB on the board. And you know what? If you get him as the 14th QB off the board, guess what? You might end up with the 11th best quarterback on the board because 3 of the last 4 years he's been able to do so. So that's where Kirk Cousins is for us. Jacob?
Yeah, I think it's a good spot for him. You have him at 13. I have him at 15. So he finds himself number 14 on our list. And just like a few of these other guys we talked about, he has the potential to finish a lot higher. And for me, there's a few reasons for that. One is Justin Jefferson. Like we expect, Justin Jefferson, what he put up 1,400 and 1,600 yards back-to-back seasons. Like Kirk Cousins is the one getting him the ball. So we got to give Cousins some props there too. And if Justin Jefferson is going to have a top 2, maybe number 1 overall wide receiver season, then Kirk Cousins is going to have a pretty good year. Another thing, you mentioned their coaching change. Their coach is Kevin O'Connell, who was the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. That was his most recent gig. What did the Los Angeles Rams do last year? They only put up the greatest wide receiver season in fantasy of all time. They won the Super Bowl. They had the best offense in the league. And now that guy is in charge. Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and the rest of the Vikings offense. They're going to ball out. The whole offense is going to ball out. And Cousins is going to benefit from that. So I honestly, I'm talking myself into putting him higher, to be honest, but I'm cool with the spot right now.
I'm cool with the spot right now. That's good. That's good. You might not feel as good as when we talk about this next guy, because arguably there's a case to be made for Kirk Cousins. There isn't a case to be made for the next QB on our list, other than the small sample size that we've seen of him, and that is Trey Lance, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. In 2021, he finished outside the top 30. Obviously, we know that's because he didn't play a lot. He only started, I think, 1 or 2 games. I have him currently as the QB 15. Jacob has him cracking the top 10 at number 9. Consensus, that is the 13th QB off the board. And I was surprising to find out that his ADP is currently quarterback 13. He's the 13th quarterback off the board. You can find him in the 9th round. Jacob, Niners are your specialty. I'll leave it to you, my friend. What do you feel about Trey Lance?
Is this our biggest disparity? Because you have him at 15, I have him at 9.
It certainly is.
Yeah, so I have him ranked number 9 on my list. And look, you see my blankie in the background. You see
my blankie,
my
little
cup
blankie
right here. There's
cup.
No secrets. I'm diehard San Francisco 49ers fan. So there's a pinch of bias in this conversation, but
no, not at all.
But here's the thing. I don't even have him as high as some other people do, who are, professional analysts who get paid to do this. And they a lot of them feel a lot more optimistic than I do. I just think because Trey Lance, there is a world where he's a top 5 fantasy QB to me, but there's also a world where he's like a bottom, like near the 20 range, because he could just have very little touchdowns, very little passing yardage. He could rush for like 800 yards and kind of just be solid. But I'm going to just meet somewhere in the middle there. That's why I have him ranked number 9. Even if, look, he didn't look good in those 2 games that he played last year. Just watching it as an NFL quarterback, he didn't look great. But if you dig a little deeper into those numbers, he had a lot of rushing attempts and designed rushing attempts. And so I just think he's going to get a lot of volume on the ground, and that's going to lead to fantasy points. It's as simple as that. And I know that's not, great analysis, but it's just the truth. And
well, it's not only just the truth, it's proven. Quarterbacks with high rushing upside generally are really good for fantasy. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. 9 is just a little too high for me for a guy who hasn't really shown anything other than his rushing upside. But then again, was Lamar Jackson able to show anything other than his rushing upside? No, finished inside the top 10. Was Jalen Hurts able to prove anything other than just his rushing upside? No, finished inside the top 12 or 13, I think. So
exactly.
I think you're good. Keep going.
So that's basically what I'm saying is like, look, realistically, he's probably like the smart move is to like, hey, maybe take him in later rounds as your backup quarterback, see if he emerges. But the thing is, other fantasy managers aren't going to allow that. He's going to be taken way early. So you either got to take your shot on him or not. And I think, look, I'm holding out hope that he's going to be solid. Like if he's a top 12 QB this year, I'm happy with that. I just want to see him play, make it through the season, us have a winning record. But on top of that, if he puts up a solid fantasy season, like shows like Jalen Hurts-ish optimism when Jalen Hurts first year, I'd be completely happy with that.
Yeah, the Niners are just such an interesting scenario for me. I mean, you're looking at a team with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm that made the Super Bowl twice in 5 years. Like, that's incredible. And yet they move on from him because, he technically couldn't get them over that hump. He couldn't get them into that promised land. But it seems to me like you kind of just you just take a step back now, because now we have to wait to see Trey Lance to develop. And It's not like Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick Mahomes in his second year was able to boost that team to a Super Bowl and win it, sitting only a year behind Alex Smith in his first rookie year. I don't think Trey Lance is Patrick Mahomes. So that's one knock. And then you just have all these things up in the air. Mike McDaniel left, talked about it. Was he the true schemer of that offense, of that Kyle Shanahan offense? And then the whole Debo contract dispute right now. Is he going to have that rushing potential next year? Is he not going to have that rushing potential next year? If he doesn't, it hurts him as a wide receiver, but it also hurts Trey Lance. It hurts the offense as a whole. Can Kittle stay healthy? Is Brandon Ayuk going to hide for half the season and then come back for the last 4 games of the season and provide fantasy value? You just don't know. It's so sporadic, and it scares me a little bit, especially because we know that these Kyle Shanahan offenses aren't traditional. We could see a lot of heavy running attempts like they have proven in the past. But with those running attempts are going to be built-in natural rushing attempts for the QB, which are good for fantasy. I mean, me having him in the top 15 isn't a slouch. That's a streamer candidate. That's someone who's going to provide you fantasy value. I think those guys in the top 15, even the top 20, those are all guys that are streamer candidates week in and week out, which is why we're talking about them today. Trey Lance, he's got potential. I just think he's got more question marks than any of the guys that we've talked about. We talked about the question marks with Zach Wilson. We talked about the question marks with Trevor Lawrence, the other 2 second-year QBs on this list. I think Trey Lance has by far some of the biggest question marks.
No, and I agree with you. And I'm just taking my shot with him, putting him at number 9. So,
well, guess what, man? Not only do you get to take your shot by ranking Trey Lance at number 9, I get to take my shot, because we're moving on to our 12th ranked QB, and that is Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders. Last year in 2021, he finished as the 12th ranked QB. I have him ranked currently as the 12th ranked QB.
Wow.
Jacob has him as the 12th ranked QB.
Wow.
Consensusly, he comes in as our 12th ranked quarterback, and ADP had to ruin it because he is currently the 14th quarterback going in redraft leagues, and that is the 9th round. Listen, the same thing we said about Aaron Rodgers. It's not every day you lose the best wide receiver in football. Well, it's not every day that you get the best wide receiver in football in the acquisition of Davante Adams. They've also done a number of things to improve that offensive line. And I think with the one thing with Josh McDaniel, the new head coach, we could see a scenario where this team turns into a rushing first offense, which last year they were kind of more balanced in that regard. It could be a more rushing first offense, but I don't think you get Davante Adams and just rush the ball 30 times a game. Derek Carr is set up to succeed. We saw him last year without Davante Adams, quarterback 12. It's only logical that he sees a natural tick up in progression. And I think this is a year where the Raiders have turned it around. Defense is still the biggest question mark. It's always been one of the biggest question marks for the Las Vegas Raiders. They're playing in one of the toughest divisions in football. That also leads me to believe that a lot of these games, they're going to be shootouts. They're going to be grudge matches. And Derek Carr is going to be forced to throw that ball a lot. And I think when you have weapons like Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Davante Adams, Josh Jacobs in the backfield, Kenyon Drake, and a number of other acquisitions that they've made this offseason, I think the ceiling's the limit. I don't really know how you would say that, but I think it's all signs, systems go for Derek Carr and this Las Vegas Raiders offense, which is why I have him ranked number 12. Jacob, you have him ranked number 12 as well. What are your thoughts?
That's crazy to me. I didn't know we both had him at number 12. That's ironic that it worked out that way.
Jacob never looks at the notes, guys.
No, I just didn't look at exactly where we both had each guy. Derek Carr, man. I'm a Derek Carr defender and supporter. I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for, but it's crazy to me. Like, he adds Davante Adams. He doesn't lose anybody significant. He keeps Renfro and Waller. When those three are on the field together, is there a better trio in on offense? Like, they're up there. I don't think there's a much better trio than that as far as pass catchers go. And if they're all healthy and all on the field, I think this offense is going to be insane. And who's their coach? Josh McDaniel of the New England Patriots. And not, he's had a long journey through the NFL, but I think it's a good thing that he's their coach. Absolutely. And I think he's very intelligent. He's going to put the pieces together and set this offense up for a lot of success. And correct me if I'm wrong, but your defense is not the greatest, correct?
Yeah, I said that. You don't need to rub it in.
Okay. No. I'm not rubbing it in, but I think there's going to be a lot of shootouts. Think about this. They play in the AFC West every single matchup. So 2, 4, 6 matchups a year in the AFC West. All of those games are going to be crazy shootouts. Therefore, every single quarterback in the AFC West, their numbers are going to be boosted throughout the whole season. They each have 6 games against each other. So those are all going to be 35-point games, in my opinion. So
a lot of fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean 35 points on each side games. So I think people aren't considering that. And I could see a world where Derek Carr's top 5. I could see it.
Well, since 2014, his rookie season, Derek Carr has never been outside the top 18 at quarterback. So, again, these guys that have consistency that are a little under the radar, that's not including his 2016 finish where he finishes the quarterback 10, 2020 where he finishes the quarterback 11, and 2021 where he finishes the quarterback 12. So he's been able to string a few years together, especially as his team, watching the Raiders as much as I do because they are my team. There's been a mixed bag of reviews out there in Derek Carr over the years. But if there's one thing you can't knock him, it's that, at times he gets the job done. And he's a really good quarterback. Is he great? He hasn't shown it yet. But this is the year to put up or shut up. And I think he's a great find towards the back end of your draft in the early 9th round. I would be fine having him going into this year. I would be fine having him as my QB1, and I will book that down.
Especially if you let everybody else draft Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd and 4th round, and then you stack up on other positions and you take Derek Carr later on. I'm totally happy with that.
I would absolutely love Derek Carr. Obviously, he finds ourselves as the 12th ranked QB. If you play in a 12-team league, that is QB1, which is what most formats are. But right around 12, Derek Carr is the first guy where I look at all these guys on our list. He's the guy that I feel the most comfortable with starting as my QB1 in these 20 through 11. So that's just kind of where my thoughts are. And again, we're both a little bullish after talking about these guys back-to-back, Trey Lance, Derek Carr. Hey, bias is a thing. Get used to it. That's where we have them. Let's talk about a Super Bowl championship quarterback who took him, 12, 13 years to get it? That's Matthew Stafford, quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams. Last year, finishes the 6th QB for fantasy. This year, I have him at number 11. Jacob has him at number 10. Consensus, he comes in as our 11th ranked quarterback. And the ADP, can't really disagree with it either. The 10th QB off the board. That's the 7th round. Jacob, what are your thoughts on Matthew Stafford?
First of all, I hate the Rams, but I am a Stafford fan. I've been a Stafford fan for years in Detroit. I miss Calvin Johnson, man. I was so sad when he retired. So those Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford years were the best. So happy for him to finally get his Super Bowl, but F the Rams. That being said, look, if this was the NFL 15 years ago and we just throw all these same offenses and players into fantasy, I think Matthew Stafford would be ranked a lot higher. Like we would see Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, those type of guys would be ranked in the top 5 to 8, right? But now we look at it, and we're going to get into our top 10 in the next video, but no surprise, there's a lot of guys with rushing upside in our top 10, right? So I think, look, Matthew Stafford's going to be a great NFL quarterback. He's going to put up a lot of big numbers. who knows if the departure of their offensive coordinator has any effect on this. Obviously, Sean McVay has a big say in that. But it's just as simple as like, look, he has a limited ceiling because we know he has to earn his fantasy points through the air. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's going to be a solid top 10, top 12 quarterback for you. Just like Derek Carr, you wait a little bit, grab Matthew Stafford at a value, you're going to be fine. So I just think he's going to be very, very solid, but he's not going to be like otherworldly to where he's going to be in the top 5.
I feel that. And, I understand that. I like the addition of Robinson.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He was in an interview later or earlier this week. What's today? Friday. He was in an interview earlier this week where he came out and said that he actually feels more comfortable with the offense, whereas last year he didn't feel comfortable at all. And then it's like, okay, you're saying that just to say it? Or if there's truth to that, then it's like, oh, wow, this guy's scary going into 2022 because now he feels comfortable in that offense.
I think that's humble brag.
It's a humble brag.
Like, right? I wasn't comfortable last year, but hey, we won the Super Bowl. We put up crazy numbers, and I wasn't even comfortable.
I don't know what to think about this guy ever since that video surfaced where he watched the photographer fall off the stage. Now I'm just like, is Matthew Stafford a douche? Is he not a douche?
Wait, did he have the opportunity to catch him?
No, you haven't seen the video?
No.
You've seen the video.
No, I haven't. Why?
I'm going to pull it up at the end of the episode so we can watch it because okay, well then we'll just drop it.
But wait, what did he do wrong though in that video?
He didn't really do anything wrong. It's that he was watching, a photographer was trying to take a picture of him and his wife. And as she was backing up, she fell off the stage, which was like a 6-foot stage. And then he kind of like did this and then turned around and walked away. Like didn't just kind of like,
ooh.
But he was drunk. He ended up coming out and like, it was during their Super Bowl celebration, right? He
might not have been even thinking about she's gonna fall,
it's just it's sad. It's funny he came out and acknowledged that he paid for all of her medical bills and everything.
Gabe takes it personal when
I take
to
it personal.
Football players, if they got a C in grade school, he doesn't draft them.
Yeah, I mean there are legitimate standards that I have when I draft my fantasy football team, but I'm not going to get into them on this podcast today. But yeah, Matthew Stafford. The only other thing is the last team to repeat a Super Bowl was the 2004-2005 New England Patriots. They went back-to-back years. I'm not saying that Brady wasn't fantasy relevant in those years, but it just kind of puts a target on their back. Teams are going to scheme more. They're going to look forward to those games more. Could mean harder outings for Matthew Stafford and company. But still, we believe in him. He's 11th ranked QB on our list. We look forward to seeing him this year and what he can do. With that being said, we come down to our 10th ranked QB and final one.
No, this is our last one. 11 was last one.
Oh my gosh. Why do I always do that?
It's okay, man.
Why do I always do that?
We're both rusty. I messed up the intro. It's all good.
Hey, it's been a while. I'm just so glad to have you back. I kind of want to pull up that Staffy vet because you haven't seen it. Now I got to find it. So
we'll watch it after the show. We'll watch it after the show.
Put it on. Hold on. Okay, fine. We'll watch it after the show. Whatever Jacob says. With that being said, then those are our quarterback rankings. Quarterbacks 20 through 11. Leave us your thoughts down below. What do you think? Are we too high on a certain guy? Are we too low on a certain guy? What are your personal thoughts? We want to hear them down in the comments, so please let us know. And while you're down there, scroll up a little bit and be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. We appreciate it so much. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, especially if you're looking at our beautiful faces here today on YouTube or Spotify, Google Podcasts, or again, anywhere else you get your podcast. With that being said, Jacob Bartley, it was a pleasure. We will be coming back next week with our quarterback rankings 1 through 10. Pretty exciting stuff, and we're excited to share it with you. Jacob, we like to end the show a little bit differently since you've been gone. I love hot takes. I want to hear your hottest take, and I want you to end the podcast right away. And I'm assuming you're ending the podcast today, right?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so then you can cue it up, and what's your hot take, baby?
Man, look, Gabe, you put a lot of pressure on us with these hot takes because every time we say one, you're like, no, that's not good enough. Let's get a different one. But I mean, hot take.
Look, hey, today I'm not in control of the end podcast, so it's you. So you could say it. I won't say anything, and you just click end.
Okay. My hot take is that Trevor Lawrence is going to have a Josh Allen-esque turnaround this season. That's my hot take.
He's gonna end the podcast now.